Alright, we do, folks. Your boy, Mark 2205 numbers after the name. Little FIFA, little Jueves, man. Little Marcos and friends over here. I'm playing my boy Fabio, man. He playing as Barca, I'm playing as Madrid. If memory serves me right, this game goes a little bit better than the actual game against Barcelona this year. Even though, if you notice, we got an early goal in this game. We got an early goal against Barca too, man. But it ended up being overturned, I believe, because of offsides and whatnot. Tough one. This is a tough video, man. You know, I've been kind of doing these videos where I recap Real Madrid's month, and this might be one of the ugliest ones I have to do so far this year. One thing to take into account, though, which almost feels like lifetime ago already, is that they didn't win the Muderitos Clubs, they didn't win the Club World Cup and whatnot. 5th title of the year, all that jazz. They looked a little bit rough in the first game, and the second game against, what was the name of the team? It was a Gamertag. I can't remember the name of the team. They looked all right, even though I think we only beat them like 1-0, but they kind of dominated the game and whatnot. So, yeah, let's not take anything here for granted, or let's not, you know, be too disrespectful, though. Like, Madrid isn't looking too good right now. They won 5 titles this past year, and that's the most we've ever won in a single year, and they pretty much have won everything except the Copa del Rey, and that's pretty good. And, you know, the Copa del Rey, we may have won it, but I remember we played, man, was it Celta that we lost to? But I remember it was like a stretch of like Sevilla a couple times, Barca, and then like Barca, Sevilla, Valencia, and then like the Champions League game and whatnot. And then we had to go play like Celta, and we still like almost like kind of came back and beat them and whatnot. So it was a little bit difficult to kind of pull that stretch off over there. Or else it may have been 6 for 6, and you know that would have been really, really good. But 5 is, you know, is tremendous and amazing, and I don't think. For as bad as Real Madrid has looked over the beginning of this season, you can't take against everything that they did last year, which is still tremendous. And I think that's part of the reason why it's been so, I don't want to say frustrating, but so difficult to understand how they went from what they were last year to what they are this year in such a short span, especially since the team is mainly the same, you know. So there's a couple factors towards that, man. December was all right, but it wasn't too great because it was capped off with that 3-0 loss to Barca, which, you know, 3-0 looks pretty bad on paper. I don't think it actually was that bad when you watch the game, especially when you watch it kind of cold. So the game was at 7 in the morning, which was kind of crazy. American time, at least, 7 in the morning. 1 o'clock there. Do some math. 1 o'clock there. Yeah, which is pretty early still for those games. I thought Real Madrid came out and they started off pretty strong, which I was probably surprised about. They had some good opportunities. I think Ben's hit the post at one point. I think, like I said, there was a goal on offsides and whatnot. And, you know, you kind of think if any of those kind of go in, you're up 1-0. It's a completely different game. Second half came out, though, and Messi was Messi. And they kind of turned it around, and they capitalized on the handful of opportunities they had, and that was it. And then they got a red card and all that jazz, and it was a debacle from there on out. But even so, even with Bale and stuff, they were still attacking at the end of the game. It's just nothing really went their way, which is kind of how this whole year has kind of been going. One interesting thing, though, and that came out of that game is kind of twofold. I think it was one of the first times that as a fan base, Real Madrid blamed Zidane for the loss. You know, Zidane's kind of been pretty A-OK so far with the fan base and everybody in general, because he's been a great guy. And he's won a lot already, so how could you hold that against him? But he hasn't really made too many decisions that have cost him games. And I feel like this was definitely one of the first times that he made a decision that cost him the game. I've seen countless times in Madrid, and it started with Mourinho back in the day when we put in, you know, kind of like Gravensen, or I'm trying to remember some of these like bozos that we had. Guys to individually cover Messi. It's just like your job is to follow Messi across the field. You know, wherever he might go, you got to be there. It doesn't work that way. Like, you can't do that. Like, there is no coverage one-on-one for that guy. It's got to be a team effort. There's a couple issues. One, you can't cover him, period, one-on-one. Like, that's just not a thing. Like, you physically just can't do it for 90 minutes. You're going to mess up. When you mess up, he's going to use that opportunity, which is what he did against for that first goal when he saw that beautiful pass to Luis Suarez. It wasn't even him that killed you. So what happens, too, is so you're focusing in on him, right? And everyone else around you has to adapt to the fact that you're not really necessarily playing 100% of your position, or you're not going to be in the right spot where, like, ordinarily to be somebody there. So they have to kind of change how they play. And if you look at that Luis Suarez goal, everybody's kind of looking at Messi and looking at Kovacic like, all right, where's this going? And Luis Suarez just kind of creeps into the back, and Messi just nails a pinpoint pass that Messi's a beast at, and there's your goal. Maybe if we didn't have Kovacic there, people would be kind of playing their man a little bit more. And maybe, hey, maybe Messi would have gone up to the edge of the box and scored himself. That's a risk you take as well. But at that point, you just kind of have to hope that your defense kind of caves in. That a guy like Casemiro or even Sergio Ramos will kind of step in. And even if you have to foul him, you foul the guy. Fouling Messi outside the edge of the box is almost like giving him a goal. So, to each their own. I'm just saying, the one-on-one coverage has never worked against the guy. It never will. You could do some one-on-one type coverage scenarios. And one of my favorite one-on-one coverage scenarios that we did a while back, this is one of the first years that Isco kind of came to be in Isco. Madrid was, they put Robin, or, when we played Bayern in the Champions League, they put one-on-one, Isco just covered Robin the whole game. And Isco just annihilated Robin. Like, Robin was nothing. He was non-existent. But Robin also just played on, like, the right side, I believe, or left side, I believe. Left side, I think. And you could kind of just pin him down to that side. And that's kind of it. Messi plays everywhere and anywhere. Like, he could do anything at any point, anywhere on the field. You can't cover that. Like, it's not, there's just not, it's not acceptable. Another reason why you should have put Kovacic just one-on-one over there on the guy is you left Isco on the bench. I'm not the biggest Isco guy, in all fairness. I like the kid. I think he's good. I think he's a little bit overrated. And more importantly, I don't think it's good for Madrid to depend on anybody ever that much as they do on Isco, as they did last year in that stretch run where kind of Isco was the one who would generate every offensive opportunity and other people might finish it, but it all came from Isco. I don't think Real Madrid should ever depend on one person like that. And I definitely don't think that one person should be Isco. I think Isco is a very good player. I think he should be utilized in space. I think a lot of times he dribbles a little bit too much and he keeps that ball a little bit too much and he plays around a little bit too much with it. And I don't really think he has the best vision necessarily in terms of creation of the game. Like, a guy like Modric, to me, has a better vision overall in terms of, like, kind of pinpointing where everything is and where everybody should be and stuff like that. So that's kind of my Isco bashing session. Having said that, he's amazing. And argued last year, I mean, he probably like top 10 in the world easy. Like, the way he played last year was sensational. And he should be playing and starting for Real Madrid against Barcelona. Like, that's not even like a debate for me. Like, yes, you're putting him over there, and I'd put him ahead of Modric and Kroos. And kind of work over there with the freedom of moving side to side and with the freedom of switching spots with Benz and Ronaldo as well, and kind of keeping that a fluid thing. So you put in Kovacic, you take out Isco, you take out offense, you put in defense, even though Kovacic isn't really necessarily like a great defender by any chance. I don't know. And then you have Casemiro there too, who's kind of, I guess, ceding his space a little bit to Kovacic or playing behind Kovacic, or I don't know. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't a good decision. And not to mention also, just even go a little bit further on Kovacic, why I think it's even more unfair that they played him. He'd just been coming back from being hurt, man. He played like a couple minutes in the Mundialito, and that's kind of it. Like, that was like all he did. And then it's like, hey, man, go guard Messi now. Like, no, that's not fair, dude. Like, you don't come from like being hurt and then all of a sudden you guard like the best player in the world. Like, it's what? Like, I don't know, man. There was so many there decisions that to me were just, ugh, like, what are you doing, dude? So that's why I think Zidane kind of gets a little bit of gripe at. The other thing Zidane kind of gets ripped into a little bit, and it's a hill that he might die on. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Zidane gets fired this year, but if we win anything. But I do think that he will be very quickly to get fired if we don't win anything this year, and then next year things don't turn around, for example. The riding it all out on Benzema and constantly just being like, I know he's really good. He's going to do it big. Don't y'all worry about it. And then Benzema just turns in horrible performance after horrible performance. No, like, that's not something you want to see. Like, that's not something you want to hear. Like, that's not right. Like, I understand he can't come out there and be like, yeah, man, Ben sucks. Like, I don't know what to do. I shouldn't play him. I get that. But there shouldn't be this just complete backing of him like, yeah, of course, like, Ben's is the man. Like, there's not even like a debate or anything like that. Yeah, it's like great. Like, no. You know, maybe we do point out that, you know, it kind of stinks he's not really, you know, finishing the opportunities like he should. Something like that, you know. I think losing Morata was one of the big mistakes that Madrid made this offseason. Not so much in the losing Morata side. I'm not a crazy Morata guy. He's good, but he ain't that great. But him as a backer was tremendous. And currently, right now, I believe he would have earned this starting role over Benzema, and rightfully so. And then it's up to Benz. Hey, do you want to fight for this, or you just want to let it go? And that'll kind of answer you what Benzema is, and then you could go from there. The other thing would have been if we would have got Mbappe, which that's a big if, but Mbappe would be starting right now, right? Like he would have earned this spot over Benzema. And then it's up to Benzema. Do you want to fight? Do you want to not? And hell, they could probably play next to each other too. I don't think that'd be much of an issue. You see Mbappe playing right now with Cavani, a true striker, and playing with Neymar, somebody who creates and also finishes. No reason why that could have been Ronaldo and Benz as well. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit in the offseason when it comes to their striker side. But I don't think anybody expected Benzema to be that bad. I don't think anyone expected Ronaldo to be that bad. Outside the Champions League like this year, Ronaldo's been really bad, man. And I don't know what happens with that. It's a little bit difficult for me to see what his future is. The one positive we have, if you want to cling your hat onto something, is it seems like they're going to purchase people in the winter on the winter market. I wouldn't really count on that to save the season. That's more just kind of like additional nice pieces, hopefully, to help you win some games. But you're not winning the Champions League with whoever the hell we're bringing in the winter. And notoriously, Real Madrid people that they bring in the winter have not been good. You know, outside of Marcelo, who was very much a long play, it wasn't like a immediate solve that took a while to kind of figure out and get him to kind of, solve that left back. Real Madrid, the winter signings have been, oof. I mean, I guess Higuain was all right. He did score goals, but I'm not a big Higuain on either. So, it's not necessarily something that you should kind of be like, hey, we're going to bring in Icardi, we're going to bring in Kepa, we're going to bring in this, we're going to bring in that. I don't think any of that's going to necessarily solve anything. But I would love to see a guy like Icardi over there. I think the summer is going to be a little more interesting. I think Real Madrid is going to be spending some cash this summer. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go. The big addition, though, that should be coming in here, and I hope he just stays healthy, is Bale. Because we haven't seen what the BBC looks like this year. Matter of fact, we barely seen it last year. We barely see the BBC play together. They barely play together. And that's a huge problem because that's supposed to be our offense. It's supposed to be our best team. Now, Benz is hurt. Hallelujah. Take your time, brother. Don't come back. I don't really care. Even with a Bale and Cristiano up atop, like that has to be better than what we've been seeing, right? Like Bale has to be able to deliver and bring some goals over here and hopefully make Ronaldo get some better plays over here and feed him some better crosses and whatnot, or put him in just in a better position or just take some attention off the guy so that he could get kind of going as well. And maybe that kind of gets the ball rolling. The big if and the big scary part from Madrid coming up here is they're 14 points back from Barca in the league. Like, that's a wrap, dude. And I know they got one game in hand, so it might be like 11, for example. But 11 is still too much. They needed to win this game and cut that deficit down to 5, man. And instead, it's at 11. And that's just like a huge thing. Not only that, I know they all, like, Real Madrid only looks at like, hey, wherever this one out from first. Like, you got to be looking at trying to make the Champions League next year, dog. Because, like, Valente's going to be up there. Sevilla's going to be up there. Madrid's going to be up there. Like, there's going to be, like, a big fight for those top 4 positions. You don't want to be left out. Like, and honestly, you don't even want to be, like, one of those teams that has to kind of play their way into the Champions League or whatnot. It's been a long time since Madrid has had to do that. It's happened a lot historically. Like, this is kind of an aberration more than Madrid's always been first and second in the league and always getting in and going deep in the Champions League. That's kind of more of an aberration than the norm. But it's become the norm because of how often they've been able to pull that off in these past couple years. And the cute thing is you could also just say, hey, man, we'll just win the Champions League next year. We'll be right in. Man, when you look at that PSG draw, man, like that was the worst draw Real Madrid could have gotten, man. It's been a minute since Real Madrid has gotten a draw like that bad. In all fairness, their draws the past couple of years have been pretty easy. They really haven't ever had to. I mean, they played Bayern when Bayern was like really good. They got some tough draws, but in these past like 2 years, the toughest draw is always when they get Atletico Madrid in the final or when they get Juventus in the final, which they were like amazing last year, even though they imploded. We got Bayern that one. We got Man City in the semifinals one year, but they kind of like imploded on themselves too. Dortmund always in the group phase is a pain for some reason. I don't know why we always end up with those guys over there. So yeah, a little bit difficult on that, but nothing like PSG. Like those, this is like honestly, Real Madrid shouldn't even be favored going into those games, which is kind of crazy when you kind of look at that. And I'm very curious to see, this season kind of rides a lot on those 2 games now. And like the Copa del Rey, right? Because the league is kind of almost over. You want to keep fighting, you want to keep playing. But that might become a proving ground for younger guys and just trying to make sure that you get enough points so you can get into the Champions League next year. up until maybe February or March, I think when that second game is played, and maybe you're out of the Champions League. And then what? Then you're really left with like a Copa del Rey, and you're left with just trying to be all right in the league. And Real Madrid hasn't been in that position a long time. I don't know. But then again, maybe you beat PSG and you keep moving on, and you go deep in the Champions League once again, and then it becomes a successful season again, right? Like, it's kind of iffy as to how all that stuff plays out. But those PSG games are going to be lethal. I'll be taking off order to watch them for sure. I'm probably going to be crying a lot through them, man. Neymar's going to do some mean things. Outside of the Benzema issue, which is a huge issue, and just the goal-scoring weakness that Madrid has right now, which are problems for sure. The other problem that's a big problem is Marcelo's play, man. And the left-back position is really hurting right now. Theo hasn't been able to step up in there as he should. It just takes time. Also, the guy's young. I'm not really hurting on that. But, hopefully in the next 2 years we get some development over there and he can take over. Physically, I still think he's a very superior athlete. It's just a matter of finding that chemistry with the rest of the guys and also being able to finish and being able to pass. I mean, he comes in way too often and just like beaming like crosses like to the next. Like we need like 2 fields, for that ball to actually land somewhere. And I don't really get it 100% aside from the fact that this is a guy who barely comes in and plays. When he does, he's kind of excited and amped up over there, and he needs to calm himself a little bit down. And that'll come with experience. But the Marcelo thing is an issue. He was playing very well until he got hurt. I'm not sure if he rushed back and he's still not 100%. I've not heard of that. But that is my only impression outside of the fact that also that he's 30-something, right? And at some point, you will experience a decay in your play, And offensively, he could still kind of do the magic that he does. It's more on the defensive end where he gets beat constantly. And he was never a great defender, but he wasn't this bad. And he's just lost the speed factor to him, too. So some guys just kind of drive by him, and that's it. They really need to put no moves. So January is going to be an interesting month, man. Next month, we're going to be talking about probably some new players and hopefully some better results.